Do your thing.
Welcome back to another episode of The Archives, a podcast where we discuss the 8 topics, I believe, that we think are most crucial for everyone to just be aware of. Not be a professional or an expert in, but just be aware of to be a functioning member of society. And these subjects are financial literacy, digital literacy, so that's all about technology, where it's headed, whatnot. Then psychology, philosophy. Psychology includes emotional intelligence. So those are 4. Then there is politics, 5, history, 6, and I'm missing 2. Productivity, 7, and there's one more, which I can't recollect right now, but there's one more. So yeah,
Okay.
that's the introduction.
Alright, so we talked about productivity last time. What do you want to
Yeah.
talk about this time?
I think we've covered
All of them.
all of them.
So,
So I mean, you decide this time. What do you want to talk about?
you know what? I have a Greek Orthodox tradition midterm in 2 days, so might as well talk about philosophy. It's fitting.
Wait, so that's a philosophy class?
No, but all religion, in my opinion, is
Oh,
philosophy.
right. No, it is, and it's not like in everyone's opinion.
Yeah,
It
it's not hard facts, guys.
is. Yeah.
So let's talk about philosophy.
Sure. I mean, you bring up a very interesting point because all religion, is philosophy, but at least I didn't perceive it to be like that for a very long time.
Oh,
Like-
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean basically what I was saying was that I considered religion to be like it's an entity of its own. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's definitely religion, not religion per se, but the institutions that carry out the religions, the different religions around the world, are definitely institutions. They're things of their own, but I think to its core, religion is just a set of rules that you have to
Set
follow.
of beliefs.
You
Set of
think
beliefs which rules are created around.
it is a set of beliefs, but under all that, under the belief and under the, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but under the magic that's written in all this, because, I mean, yeah, it sucks to tell you, oh, it's magic if it's your religion, but you think that all the other 3,000 religions in the world, those are magical tales, but yours is right. So at the end of it,
No,
it's magic-like tales, and under all that, it's just sets of rules. It's rules that at one point or another during history, when the religion formed, and this is hundreds of years, this is not 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year by any means. At that point in time, it was the easiest, most straightforward way of ensuring that people would understand how they should carry themselves in the society they were taking part of, and that they would actually do it. Because if you tell somebody from the Middle Ages, which if you bring somebody from Middle Ages to us right now, he would look like a stupid person. If you tell them don't kill, why? Because it's wrong. Because it'll deplete our society and take us to hell. That person is most likely not gonna understand that. That person doesn't know how to read. That person doesn't know how to write. They only know what's being taught to them by their parents, who basically were under this same cycle. There is no such thing as education. So what do you do with these people? Well, you form a set of beliefs that just entail a set of rules that tell you how to carry out yourself in society.
the beliefs justified the rules.
Exactly. And the ultimate idea is how you're supposed to carry yourself in the society you're taking part in. And yeah, basically it's just a way of living, if you will. And even today, I think it's arguable that a religious person, I mean, now we have laws and what do you call human rights and so forth. So there's not a dire need of religion like there was before, in the sense that you don't need to explain somebody not to kill through a story in order for the person to rationalize and understand that killing is bad.
Yeah.
But I do think religions, especially the older religions, which are most of them, have evolved to kind of become a way of life for the people who practice them. I'll give you an example. So, like I told you, I have a test in 2 weeks. It's for my Greek Orthodox tradition, which is just basically Orthodox Catholicism, Orthodox Church. So, a little background so people understand how minuscule and sometimes insignificant things can make a religion split and become two completely different sets that not don't necessarily like or agree with each other. Orthodox Church and Catholic Church have essentially the same set of beliefs. And I can tell you this with certainty because I grew up in a Catholic country, heavily Catholic country, and I'm taking a class for Greek Orthodox religion taught by a priest. It's the same thing. The reason why they split up is because basically there was this debate in a symposium that took place in the Middle Ages where one group thought that Jesus was completely divine and he had no humanity, no human aspects to him, and the other group thought that Jesus was divine as well as human. So in ugly words, one group thought that yeah, Jesus is divine and he's the Son of God, but he also shits and sleeps and so forth, and has needs and gets hungry and thirsty.
Primal needs.
Yeah, primal. Like at the end of the day, he's just an advanced monkey, just like us.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other group was like, no, Jesus is God on earth. They're like, we can't compare ourselves in any point, in any aspect to Jesus. And that, I mean, I think at least personally, that's a small argument. Jesus was Jesus. It's their savior. If you want to think he's half human, half divine, or completely divine, who cares? At the end of the day, Jesus is Jesus. And it represents the same thing for both religions.
Yeah.
But such a small argument completely broke up the religion into, if I'm not wrong, Western Roman Empire and Eastern Roman Empire. And that's where the Eastern Orthodox name comes from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so basically the Western Roman Empire compiled every single believer, if you will, into one organized religion that would come to be Catholicism, which is completely centralized. So, in the sense, in a way, the Pope would be the president.
Yeah, like it is. At
He
the
is.
Vatican.
He's the highest ruling officer
Yeah.
in Catholicism, and it drips down from there. And the center of Catholicism is located in Rome. So in the same way as a centralized government country would have, like Colombia, for example, they have their president and Bogota is the capital, and everything comes out of there.
Yeah.
As opposed to Orthodox, Greek Orthodox or Eastern Orthodox, where they couldn't get it together. They couldn't get the different countries, Russia, Greece.
Those who adopted it.
Yeah, Armenia. Is that how you say it in English?
Armenia. There's
Armenia.
a place called Armenia.
Yeah, Armenia. All these Eastern European countries, they couldn't get in accordance into one set of, stated beliefs in the same way that Catholicism did. And so what happened was they became secular. So imagine they all acknowledge they believe in the same thing, but they all have their own power within their church. So there's a Greek church, there's a Russian church, there's an Armenian church, there's many more, it's just that I can't remember the names right now. So that works in the same way that a federal government would work. In the sense that they all have the same set of beliefs which would equate to the Constitution, but they have power within them.
They have their own jurisdiction.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't necessarily, if one person says one thing in Greece, it doesn't necessarily mean that the guy in Moscow is gonna agree with them.
Yeah.
And it's funny, my professor was talking about how if you try to get all the patriarchs, which are the heads of every individual church, into one place today, you probably couldn't do it because they have beef.
Yeah.
So
it's like competition.
Yeah, exactly. And so Constantinople, which is the modern day Istanbul, that's supposed to be the center of the religion in a sense.
That was the center back when
in Roman Empire.
when it was broken up into two parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It wasn't at the beginning. It's funny because the Constantinople, the emperor, he believed in some pagan religion, some what do you call it? Roman, the ancient Roman religions, basically very similar to the Greek religion,
Okay.
multi gods and so forth. And actually, I'm 90% sure that the Roman religion was derived from the Greek mythology.
Okay. I
But-
mean, I'm not really.
Yeah, essentially the same thing. And one day, before going to war, he had this premonition
Okay.
that he saw a cross on fire or something like that. And he basically took that as a message from God that he had to switch the whole empire to um, essentially Christianism. Christianism is the concept of believing in Christ. So Catholics and Orthodox, they're both Christian. And even Protestants and so forth, they're all Christians.
Yeah.
That just means believing in Christ.
Christianity is the overarching.
Exactly. It's the overarching concept of those who believe in the New Testament, which starts when Jesus is born.
Yeah. Christianity is when the divide between Judaism
Exactly. Essentially.
begins.
Essentially.
Okay.
And it's important to know that before this happened, before Constantine took this decision, Christianity was banned. There was no freedom of religion in the Roman Empire. So there was no such thing as church, Catholicism. There were no priests. People just gather secretly in homes and carry out services. So when Constantine did this, he essentially deregularized religion. So now you could believe in whatever you wanted. Being Christian was strongly advised, but you could essentially believe in everything you wanted. And he moved the center of the empire from, I don't know what place, I think it was Rome. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was Rome. So he moved the center of the empire from Rome to modern day Istanbul, which he named Constantinople.
So this is when he had this premonition.
Yeah.
That was the birthplace of this Eastern Orthodoxy.
It was the birthplace of, in a way, it's just the birthplace of Christianism.
Really?
Yeah, because before this, it wasn't allowed.
Wait. Oh, okay. In that geographical.
Yeah, exactly.
Area.
I mean, that geographical area, yeah, in a way,
Because
basically.
the New Testament was around for a while, for sure.
Oh, around 300 years before this happened.
Yeah, so obviously
But-
Christianism must have existed.
Oh,
since
it
then.
existed. It was just, it was an underground religion.
Okay. I
So
see.
you were not allowed to practice it, but it was very
Yeah,
much present.
It wasn't mainstream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I don't know the numbers, but from what I've understood from my professor, Father Bacchus, shout out to him, it took a lot of, it had a lot of momentum. But it's still, I mean, if it's banned, it's never going to trump over. But as soon as it got acknowledged, and what Constantine did was basically he took away he gave liberty of religion, but he made the empire Christian. So the official religion of the empire was Christian. He moved the capital to Constantinople, and after that happened, all this stuff started happening. So that's why, I mean, at least in Eastern Orthodox Catholics, Eastern Orthodox Church, they call Constantinople, so modern day Istanbul, the New Rome.
They do.
They do. They still do.
They call it the New Rome.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming these would be the heavily the real believers who.
But it's kind of a widespread thing. It's part of the culture at this point.
Oh, okay. It's not a religious term anymore.
Not really. It's a new Rome because he moved the capital, which was Rome, the Roman Empire, Constantinople. And so once he did this and institutionalized religion, Christianism at least, that's when shit hit the fan.
Why?
Because then we have this split that happens later,
What split?
between Catholicism and Orthodox.
Oh, this was caused by the split was triggered by this.
The split was allowed by this because before this it wasn't allowed. So you can't really institutionalize something if it's not allowed.
Yeah.
And so
So wait, 1 second. Just quick question.
go ahead.
What
This is a
was-
little confusing.
What was the widespread belief before
Christianism.
the premonition then?
Oh, Roman.
Whatever
Yeah, like they had their version of Zeus, of Poseidon.
their polytheistic
Yeah, yeah.
religion.
Basically, it was basically Greek mythology with
Yeah.
different names.
Oh, okay. So that was widespread. Just to recap, so that was widespread, and then the king or whoever it was,
The emperor.
the emperor, he had this premonition, which caused him to switch to Christianism from the ancient Greek tradition, and simultaneously centralize it in modern day Istanbul.
Yeah, essential.
And following that, so when he moved it to Istanbul, it wasn't Catholicism or Eastern Orthodox. It was just Christianity.
From my understanding, yeah.
And okay, then now.
And then a lot of things happen. Basically, they start to institutionalize everything.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm not gonna go into the details because honestly, I haven't studied that much for the exam. But and it would just be boring and a little pointless.
But long story short, I'm assuming.
Long story
In-
short, they split.
Yeah, the tribals, they must have made their own groups and
Yeah,
started arguing.
They
for-
organized themselves,
Yeah.
started arguing, split up,
Yeah.
and I mean, if you go by numbers, I think Catholicism won because they have what 6 billion practitioners in the world today.
6 billion.
No, sorry,
The
2
world
billion.
is 7.5.
2 billion, 2 billion,
Yeah.
2 or 3 billion.
No, I think I'm pretty sure Christianity is the most followed religion in the world.
But Christianity is very ambiguous because within Christianity is not a religion. It's more of a, what do you call it? A train of thought, a
Yeah.
dogma, if you will.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
all religion is.
Yeah, but it's an idea. It's an ideal.
No, there are many subcategories, but
Yeah,
that's the overarching
Yeah, exactly.
label.
Oh, if you add them all up, I think it'll be more than 3 billion in the world. If you add them all up.
Christianity.
Yeah, because you would have Greek Orthodox, you would
Yeah.
have Catholics, and you would have all the 154 Protestant church.
Yeah, dude, I don't. Because
And Catholicism, it's alone has 2 or 3 billion.
Are you sure?
I read it in a book on CBS like
Okay,
2 days
whatever.
ago.
Just look it up. Look it up right now.
Sure.
Because I'm pretty sure like Islam is a really close second
It is.
with
But
multiple
not-
billion.
Not against Christianity though. It's
Yeah.
against Catholicism. You're confusing the two terms.
Okay, are you?
Bec-
Okay, I mean,
Because it
maybe.
never gets pulled with Christianity. Like nobody will say, "Oh, Christianity," because
okay, I mean, maybe I just read it as Christianity because to make Catholicism, Christianity is all the same thing.
yeah,
Or at least was the same thing.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
1.2 billion estimated, and this was in what year? 2013.
Just go to religion breakdown. Religion with
Breakdown.
statistics or something. Yeah. Yeah.
So Christianity.
It's 2.1. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Islam's goes
I guess
second.
yeah. Islam is 1.5, and the rest is
So for the
Hinduism is
viewers,
4th.
for the viewers out, that's all of India. For the viewers or listeners, Christianity is 2.1 billion, third of the world. Close second, followed by Islam, which is 1.5 billion. Then secular
Non-religious.
atheists
Yeah.
with 1.1 billion, and fourth Hinduism with 900 million. Makes a lot of sense.
It's crazy, man. It really is because I mean, all this story was just to illustrate the point that a lot of this a lot of this religions and just beliefs, they break up over the dumbest shit.
Oh yeah.
They keep like breaking into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces.
I think it's just for power, dude.
Oh, it is 100% because
One group wants power, and the other
If-
group wants power.
if there's a guy who's the Pope and then there's another guy who's the Patriarch of Constantinople, the Patriarch of Constantinople feels entitled to as much power as the Pope.
Mm.
But the Pope says, no, fuck that. I am the Pope, so
Mm.
I'm not gonna, give away any power.
Mm.
And I mean, if you go into this history in the Middle Ages where Catholicism was ruler and king.
Yeah.
Popes are not that there are many popes that were not good people.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you ask anybody with the loosest morals, they'll tell you, no, that's a bad person.
How much do you know about the Crusades?
I'm not the most knowledgeable, but I know the vague overview of it. Do you know a lot?
No, all I know is that it just I remember it because you said that there have been many popes
Oh,
that
yeah.
weren't the nicest, and the Hall of Fame of that category would be those that led the Crusades.
I think there were like 2 or 3 that
There were
were
several
involved.
Crusades.
Yeah, I think there's 3 major crusades,
Okay.
but I know there's a lot of, trips within those that were smaller. But the crusades were essentially, I mean, the overview of it, just so we don't leave it open-ended. The Catholic Church wanted to reclaim the Holy Land, which is modern-day Jerusalem. That's where Jesus was born. And so, what they did was they essentially, under this pretext, they went ahead and massacred Muslims in the Middle East for decades. They looted, they pillaged, they burned down, they raped their women, they killed their kids. They did unspeakable things things like the Holocaust, man. I mean, it's a different time, so it's taken within a different context, and I think that's completely appropriate. But if you just put them part to part, man, they did some despicable things in the name of religion. And nobody really talks about it anymore because, I mean, it happened some 1,500 years ago or something like that. And, I mean, the world would be completely different if that hadn't happened. But it just goes to illustrate also that, following something sometimes will lead you to do things that are just objectively wrong. And you'll do them blindly.
There's nothing. Okay, I mean, finish what you're saying.
Yeah, like people that would otherwise be completely rational, logical, and probably sane people will blindly follow these trains of thought till the end. And it's not even the thought itself, because the Bible didn't say anywhere to go and pillage Jerusalem. It's just the leaders tend to be corrupt because, I mean, power tends to corrupt the leadership. And the cycle of the human hierarchies goes over and on again. Although I will say, before you say your point, I think this is a much more prevalent problem in this centralized or semi-centralized monotheistic religions. So I know India's having some issues right now, but I can't think of the last time that I heard, at least I haven't learned about it, that, I don't know, Hindus or Buddhism or Hinduism organized a massive crusade against somebody else in some other part of the world. They tend to be a lot more peaceful.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I mean, full disclosure, I'm not the most educated on religion, on theology, but the difference I see, like one of the major differences I see, is the Abrahamic religions tend to be more, missionary oriented.
Yeah.
Like they want to spread the whatever. What do they call it? The truth.
The good word.
The good word, yeah. And where, as opposed to Eastern religion, it's completely the opposite. It's never like, it's equally corrupt. Don't get me wrong. Like when the phenomena we see with religions, institutions of religion becoming basically machines of revenue. That happens even in India. That happens a lot in India.
With 900 million followers, yeah, that makes sense. Any widespread religion is essentially a money machine.
Yeah, so that's definitely there, but it's let's call it mass violence, historically speaking at least, tends to not, at least in my knowledge, isn't, especially if we talk about Buddhism specifically, Buddhism and other religion like such as Jainism, which is like a subsect of Hinduism in
Yeah.
a way, those are like fundamentally non peace oriented.
Yeah,
Like
non-violence.
Jainism, for example, their core philosophy is the 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 idea of ahimsa, which is non-violence. So if you to carry out a violent act is to fundamentally oppose the idea, where and like obviously like the Crusades show and the several the killings in the 7 millions of within the Islamic world show to be violent under that belief system. There's nothing that explicitly says okay now you've crossed the line. You know, it's all within the line.
I mean, the thing is that, I mean, I've had the chance to study the Bible for many years because I was in Catholic school and I got this drilled into my head pretty hard. The thing is, the Bible itself, it's pretty ambiguous, man. It really is because, I mean, there's no one person that wrote the whole Bible. It's a bunch of stories compiled by a bunch of people who wrote them. And I mean, if you're a follower and a believer, you think they were all inspired by God, but I mean, objectively, they're very vague, man. That I can, if you see them through a rational lens, there's many of them that, if you isolate them by themselves, which is the way I think it was meant to be done, yeah, it makes sense. It's like don't steal, don't kill your brother, don't have sex with your own mother, stuff like that. Respect your father. That all of these things that I'm telling you are explicitly there. But stuff like, because yeah, well, I'll get into that in a second. But stuff like, yeah, let's throw rocks to this woman who showed her hair. Let's just kill her, throwing rocks at her, massacre her in the town square. There's nowhere in there that says that. And if there is, the only instance where I can think of it was in the New Testament when Jesus is there, and they have this woman who they're gonna, I don't know the word in English, but basically they're gonna kill her by throwing rocks at her.
Stoning.
Stoning is the word, yeah. They're gonna stone her to death, and Jesus gets in the middle of it, and he says, whoever's clear from sin, whoever's ready to die right now and go to heaven and be with my Father, throw the first rock. And everybody stopped and they let her go because, like I said, it's a story. It's meant to be. How are you gonna be judging people when you don't have your house in order?
Yeah.
When you don't feel completely squeaky clean yourself.
Yeah.
So, a lot of it has been twisted over the years, and I personally think a lot of it has been rewritten and edits here, edits there, take a little bit off here, put a little bit extra there, just to accommodate the political intentions that, for example, the popes in the Middle Ages had. That's how they were able to justify it. Because, I'm sorry for being blunt, but if you think this more than 2,000 plus old book hasn't gone through edits and changes, you're an idiot. Because it's like any story, and especially because many of these things weren't even written down until later on.
Yeah, the text was edited even before the first transfer to written text.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not even taking into account translations.
Yeah.
So these texts have been edited over and over at least hundreds of thousands of times in the history of the world, possibly millions. And I do think for most stories, the message holds. It's a message of respecting your fellow human being and doing things that will aid the group to strive forward and not hinder the society so it doesn't crumble into hell on earth. I do think the message has stayed, but man, some religious cuckoos, crazy people,
No, it's
twisted quite a bit.
Yeah, because the fundamental purpose religion fills, right, is hope. Because it gives, like, humans being humans have a very innate need to understand
Yeah.
shit. Like, generally they want to understand everything, and the biggest mystery is life itself. And we, regardless of, irrelevant of how far we've come, we still don't know the answer to that question. Nobody does. And the way that we cope with this void of information is through religion, through a story at the end of the day that gives us means to reconcile this lack of understanding. And with that comes a lot of power to this adopted stories, because naturally, going back to our innate needs and tendencies, we, whatever is believed by the most people becomes the truth.
Right.
And like we just saw, there are 3.3 billion people, or 2.3 billion people that follow, let's take Christianity as an example, follow Christianity. Then that becomes the truth. But by the mere fact that there are so many other people who also believe it to be true. And with that comes a lot of power in the hands of Christianity. And with that comes a lot of power in the select people's hands.
Yeah, they like you said, having so many people believe in the same concepts and stories inevitably is gonna make the religion or whatever it is to institutionalize, which is what happened. And once you institutionalize, you're inevitably gonna have people who are leaders of the institution, those who are in charge of maintaining and helping the institution thrive. And man, most of the people who are chosen for that, first of all, they're not chosen in any democratic way. They're just chosen.
I think it is like there, because I remember watching a video on the process through which
I'll tell you the process through which they pick the Pope.
I mean, the whole process
I'll tell you the
is
process.
the same, right? The way you increase up the ranks, and
they become priests, then they become, I don't know these words in English, but they keep ascending until they get to a point where they're cardinals, I believe. But there's a council of cardinals, and dude, let's be honest, all of them think in the same way. And it's been not too long ago, one of these cardinals turned out to have raped some bunch of kids. So it's not really democratic. If anything, it's not democratic at all. Actually,
it's all within the ecosystem.
Yeah, within the organization.
Yeah.
Say they're like the board of directors, and they choose the Pope. And once they can make up their minds on who the Pope is gonna be, then the Pope becomes the ruler until he dies or he does something despicable enough that they'll throw him out.
Dude, I was just learning up on this division between state and religion, right? And it's I mean, it's kind of like messed up, because anyone can start a religious organization. Anyone. You don't have to be like climb up these ranks or whatnot. You just file the necessary documents and open your church. Let's take Christianity again as an example. You open your church in the US or wherever, and you become like the pastor of the church.
Yeah.
And you get people to come basically by marketing. You have to sell yourself to get them in the door, and once you're in the door, you have to basically just be a very good motivational speaker.
It's funny you should mention that, because I mean, first of all, tax evasion through creating fake churches, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Because religious organizations don't pay for taxes. But going to the motivator, like, you just have to be, like you said, you have to be essentially an exceptional public speaker.
Yeah, and you have to just evoke emotion.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fun because that class that I was telling you about, my professor he's a priest. And oh my God, he's such a good speaker.
Yeah.
He's such a good speaker. Like, dude, we're talking about things that some of them I already know from before. Most of it I don't care. But I still listen to him because he's so interesting to to just
Listen
sit
to it, yeah.
and listen to, and he'll throw in things that everybody can get behind, maybe a little controversial here and there,
Yeah.
just enough to keep you interested.
Yeah.
And that's just a good speaker. And dude, he's the priest of Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks goes to him for advice.
He's a celebrity priest.
He's a celebrity. The best public speakers become either politicians or priests.
Yeah. No, or motivation speakers.
Or motivation. I mean, that's newer, but yeah, essentially.
And dude, it's like I said, it's really messed up because, like you mentioned, the tax breaks, right? They collect once they get people in the door and evoke the necessary emotions. There are many people who are like purposeless in life and empty because of several tragedies that they've gone through, or whatever the reasons may be. They're just lost in life and purposeless, and this makes them feel fulfilled in the moment, and which naturally makes them keep on coming through the door, and they develop a connection naturally, because giving someone their purpose is a pretty big deal. Like it's a concept that you can't understand unless you've actually experienced it.
Yeah.
And once that happens, like I said, it gives massive power to, in this case, the pastor, who now is like naturally preaching for donations, because like at least back in the day when I say, I mean pre-internet days, there were like, I mean, I'm pretty sure right now also, but they were explicitly saying that don't use your money for like hospital surgery if you're physically ill. Give it to God, because apparently you can like confirm if this is true or false, but there's like this phrase or this saying in the Bible which says God gives you back the proportion to which you give him.
Yeah.
So like
something like that.
Under that pretense, they say they obviously, with their beautiful speaking, they convince you to give the limited money you have to. This was in fact the exact words that one of the video clips showed the pastor saying. You have $1,000. You're anyway not gonna buy the house in that much. Might as well give it to God. And what these pastors are doing, since they have tax breaks, they're buying fat mansions. And because of the way the legislature is written, the more expensive your house is, the more tax break you get. So it's actually they're incentivized to burn money.
Just to give a little context to that, this thing that you're saying, I mean, it happens in every single monotheistic, it happens in every single Christian religion, but it happens especially in this Protestant religions, because you know how they're secular and there's 150 something or more, which is like, have you heard of Baptist, evangelical?
I've heard of them. I have no idea what they are.
So they're basically pockets that say, they said back in the day when Reverend Calvin, whatever, he said no, because the Catholic Church was being oppressive. So he divided and they became Protestants. And Protestant fragmented into very many religions. And not religions, churches. And it's an ongoing stereotype, if you will, that this, I mean, it's not a secret that this type of religious belief is more abundant in places that are lower on the socioeconomic scale. So you'll see it in places like South LA. You'll see a bunch of Baptist, evangelical, and many more other names, and you can just make one up if you want. Yeah. And the funny thing is that they'll advertise in their sign, they'll put the name of the priest, the pastor. And so the pastor is the brand, not the religion. It's a pastor. He's the brand. And I mean, it's an ongoing stereotype that these pastors, they say exactly what you're talking about. Oh, give your money to God. You want to spend your money on a car? No, don't do that. Give it to God. He'll take you wherever you need to be. Stuff like that. And I mean, this is not a fact, but people who are dealt bad cards in life, tend to accept things. They tend to swallow things whole.
Yeah, because anything that's what that's going back to what I mentioned before. Something that gives you purpose
Yeah,
is is a very difficult thing to conceptualize, but once you understand it, you understand the power it holds.
yeah,
You
exactly.
can convince anyone to do anything.
Exactly.
And I don't mean that by in any exaggeration. Literally, you can convince anyone to do anything, and the Crusades are an example of that.
Exactly. And yeah, uh, I lost my train of thought. But where I was going with this is back home, I had this friend who was in one of these Protestant religions. And they had this thing, I don't know what the word in English is, but in Spanish it's called diezmo.
DMO.
Diezmo.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what it basically entailed was that in order to be part of the church that he was part of, you have to give 10% of all your earnings to the church.
10%
Yeah.
of life, like
Of
every
you, like, if you get paid
Yeah.
tomorrow,
10% goes to the
you have
church.
to go 10% of that.
Wow.
If you sell your car,
Yeah.
10% goes to the church. If you sell your house, 10%. Uh, shit, I don't know what else.
No,
Stuff
I-
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, I get the point.
Everything. Any
Yeah.
money that comes in, 10% goes to the church. If
Yeah.
not, you get excommunicated, which means you get thrown out from
How
church.
would how would they enforce something like that?
Man, I don't know about America, but in Colombia, people have their ways.
What does that mean?
This guy's like, they're very heavily involved. So if you show up with a nice, obviously people dress nicely for church.
Mm.
You're supposed to wear your best clothes,
Hmm.
which I think is fundamentally wrong concept.
No,
but,
that goes back to just making them feel something in that moment.
exactly. So there's ways to tell, bro. Like
No,
once
okay, yeah.
his dad, I remember, he got pressured. He told me, we were kids. We were what, 14 years old.
Mm.
We were kids. We didn't know anything about life. He was telling us that his father got pressured by the pastor. The pastor's name was Edmundo. I'll never forget that name. He got pressured by the pastor in one of the community meetings
Yeah.
to give more money. Because he was saying, oh no, look at how you dress, look at the car you drive, look at where you live. You
Yeah.
have more than this. Are you being stingy with God?
Yeah.
I will never forget this story.
Wow, dude.
He pressured his dad into giving more money.
Dude, that's so blunt.
It's ridiculous, man. Actually, we're right about to be at the cutoff. But before we go, if anybody is in the mood to see a representation of this, a very big exaggeration, I'm sure, but never mind, a good and funny and entertaining thing, go to the TV show called Boondocks and find the episode with the Reverend. They talk about it. It's this thing that I'm telling you about essentially. It's hilarious and it's very insightful. It's extremely insightful. I couldn't believe it when I saw it because it seemed so much like the story that I was told when I was 14 years old. I couldn't believe it.
Dude, that's a very common occurrence.
Yeah.
Dude, one of the pastors that like I came across on the interweb was a pastor in the black community that everywhere he goes with an entourage, and he's always like whenever he goes into church or whenever he's commuting, he's sitting on a throne, on a literal physical throne, and his entourage is like carrying the throne on their shoulders, and he's just and that's how he like moves.
Yeah, just stuff like that, man. How are you gonna be so set on anything when you see things like that, especially in religion?
Dude, it's
I know some people it gives them hope, and I actually applaud that religion gives people hope because I think in some ways it's necessary and it does more good than harm. At least some religions do more good than
his
harm.
like net like
Net is harm. Net is
right
negative.
now like
Like
back
I'm talking about contemporary.
yeah no yeah, I agree with that, but what I was gonna say is at least for the vast majority of human history, like, this is just opinion, but I would say that it was it was necessary
Oh yeah,
regardless.
100%. If you think about it, it's the easiest, most foolproof way of organizing people.
that
when-
we know of right now.
Oh, okay, that we've been able to
Yeah.
stumble across it in the human
Yeah.
journey. Because yeah, I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure, but I'm open to the idea that there's a better way, in the same way that I'm. Okay, this I'm pretty sure there's a better way to rule than democracy. I don't know which one it is, but I know sure as hell democracy can be the best we have to offer.
No, there's no way. As technology advances, that will enable us to create new forms of governance.
Yeah, I think we'll figure it out. I think religion, at least monotheistic religions, have been a net negative in history. But I think in contemporary,
You know, in contemporary times, it's net negative for sure.
in modern times,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a net positive as of right.
Net negative. What are you saying?
I think it's a net positive right now.
You think religions are net positive in the time we live in?
I don't think religions are okay, bro. Don't twist my words. Don't be a reverend here.
No.
I think that for the people who follow religion,
Yeah.
it's good. I think it's good for them. I don't think they should stop because, dude, I'm just thinking if I was in that position and I believe so wholeheartedly in something, and I was in a shitty situation in my life, which most people in the world are in shitty situations,
Yeah.
and say science tomorrow proves beyond reasonable doubt that God doesn't exist and we're just meat bags with bones inside, waiting to die and decay, I would kill myself, man.
Why?
Because I don't have shit. I don't have money. My house is shit. It's falling apart. I'm not gonna be able to pay my mortgage in a lifetime. My wife hates me. My
Okay,
kids
okay.
hate me.
Okay.
My kids might be doing criminal shit.
Okay.
I just hate my life in general. The only small ray of light that I get is that I think I'm convinced that there's this guy, this presence above me that's gonna make everything fine in due time. And then if you tell me that beyond a reasonable doubt that doesn't exist, then what's the point of my life? I have I have no direction. I have no purpose. There's nothing to live for. Everybody hates you. You're a failure. You didn't live up to your potential. This is especially true for older people, at least in my opinion. You didn't live up to your potential. Everybody that's around you hates you or doesn't have an opinion about you. What do you do then, man? You have no skills. You have nothing going on for you. You were dealt shitty cards in life and you were too lazy to turn it around for yourself. Then what do? I mean, you can keep on living your shitty life and let nature kill you for you. But shit, I would take the easy way out, man.
Okay, I mean, if you put it like that,
And I've met people that if they didn't have religion, because I mean, at least back home, you meet a lot more people that are more hyper religion than here and that are in worse conditions than here.
yeah.
I know for a fact those people will take their lives because they've
Yeah.
told me that they would take their lives if they found out that God is not real.
See, I don't disagree with what, like the speech you just made. I don't disagree with that. But that wasn't the question. The question was is it a net negative or a net positive?
Oh.
And the fact that there are positives, which, like you mentioned right now.
Yeah, it doesn't negate the negative.
Yeah, exactly. And
I think there's a lot of negatives, and I think there's some religions that do the bulk of the negative stuff.
oh, of
Those
course,
being
of course.
monotheistic religions
Yeah.
in their majority. But I think the jury's still out for it.
I mean, yeah, it's not something anyone can prove.
Yeah, I reserve my opinion. I don't have a definite opinion because, man, I don't know. I'm sure India's a similar way. Actually, you can't eat beef in India. That just goes to show you, if religion was taken out of the equation overnight, society would collapse in many ways.
Oh no, yeah, no. I don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing for the eradication of religion because I'm still a believer that society to function needs a social blanket, and if we eradicate religion, we need another one that can take its place immediately, which we don't have. So until that we don't get one, let's keep religion. Let's see how far that gets us.
I think that's a good place to end. Let's
Yeah.
see how far we get with this one.
Yeah, let's
Let's see what the world has in store for us
in the
in the future.
in the future. Okay.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
Peace out.